I was watching this video by Overly Sarcastic Productions, and it was about a trope known as the 5-man band. Of course, I knew what a 5-man band was, I just didn't know what it was called. Basically, it's a group of characters, usually but not always, consisting of 5 members who embody certain archetypes seen in fiction. The leader/hero, the lancer, the smart guy, the big guy, and finally, the heart. Some examples of these archetypes they use in the video are characters from probably the first anime I ever fell in love with, Yu Yu Hakusho. Being so familiar with the show, I thought the examples they used fit to a T, but I wish they had elaborated on it just a little more when it came to Yu Yu Hakusho specifically. But they did not, so I guess I'll have to do it myself. That being said, go subscribe if you haven't, they're pretty great.
You left yourself open, Dad.
Bobby?
At this rate, you'll never survive.
Damn it, Chinese Sasuke.
I think it's obvious why Yusuke is the leader/hero archetype. He's the main character whose story we follow, he's the namesake of Team Urameshi, and he's the one who the other characters rally around when the shit hits the fan. The entire story kicks off when Yusuke dies in the first episode. Following his death and subsequent resurrection, Yusuke becomes the spirit detective of the spirit world and gets thrown into case after case until eventually forming our core 4 of his rival/friend Kazuma Kuabara, former demon adversaries Kurama and Hiei, and himself during the Maze Castle arc. When they enter the castle and set off a booby trap that causes the ceiling to come down on them, Yusuke knows that the only one of them fast enough to hit the lever controlling the ceiling and kill the demon guarding it is Hiei. So he puts out his own spirit power in an effort to give Hiei time to complete the task and keep the ceiling from crushing him. Not that there was a whole lot of choice in the matter, but the fact that he trusted Hiei enough to get the job done, knowing that Hiei could potentially betray them and leave them to die, is the first time Yusuke establishes himself as the leader within Team Urameshi. Whether consciously or subconsciously, extending this olive branch of trust definitely has a positive effect on Hiei. He's more than willing to put his life on the line if it means protecting his friends, like when he pours his life energy into a final attack against Suzaku to save Botan and Keiko from the Makai insects. Hell, before he even knew Kurama like that, Yusuke was gonna sacrifice himself to the Forlorn Hope just to keep Kurama from doing just that. And he had just been resurrected. Speaking of resurrection, when he's brought back a second time after being killed by Sensui in the Chapter Black arc, the surviving members of Team Urameshi are so elated to see their leader alive that they get a sudden burst of energy and are ready to keep throwing hands with the former spirit detective. It isn't until Yusuke meets his ancestral father Raizen that Yusuke truly learns the burden of leadership. After Raizen's death, Yusuke is left in charge of an entire domain. What do you do when you rule an entire kingdom on the verge of war and its inhabitants are looking to you for answers? Yusuke does what he's always done and fights. Back in the Dark Tournament, Yusuke had to fight and win not only for his own survival, but for that of everyone he knew. In this new winner-take-all tournament, the fates of all 3 realms hang in the balance. The champion ultimately decides the future of Demon World, which could potentially have devastating effects on the human and spirit worlds. Yusuke, facing insurmountable pressure and odds, shoulders that responsibility and goes toe-to-toe with all manner of S-class demons, including the vicious Lord Yomi. Even though he's the hero of the story, he's definitely not flawless. He's brash, impatient, short-tempered, stubborn, and overall has a complete lack of respect for authority. However, I think those flaws combined with the more traditionally heroic aspects of his personality make him a layered 3-dimensional character. Dude will talk shit to your face, kick your ass, and then help you off the ground. That level of depth makes him one of the best and more interesting MCs in all of anime.
Here it is. The final days before the end of the world. I should probably take in the calm.
Holy crap! Urameshi, look at this guy's head!
Oh, thank God, I was getting bored.
Standing shoulder to shoulder next to every hero is a Lancer. A Lancer is typically characterized by their relationship with the hero, whether that be a bestie or rival or even a second in command. An important distinction to make is that they usually aren't sidekicks. They're more or less on an even playing field with the hero, even if they're not as powerful. Kuabara and Yusuke start out as delinquent rivals, although that rivalry is pretty one-sided with Yusuke beating up Kuabara pretty much every day. Regardless, Kuabara keeps challenging him until Yusuke can finally be bothered to remember Kuwabara's name, and in a roundabout way, this earns Yusuke's respect. After inadvertently getting caught up in a case with Yusuke and Botan, Kuabara becomes Yusuke's unofficial partner, getting swept up in every case throughout the series up until the Three Kings arc. With his code of honor, he bounces off Yusuke really well, with Yusuke being the more abrasive of the two. Although not as strong or as powerful as the other members, his high levels of spiritual awareness and empathy are critical elements to Team Urameshi's mostly punch first, ask questions later attitude, balancing out the group dynamic. For example, using that awareness, Kuabara is able to help guide the team through the appropriately named Maze Castle. During the Dark Tournament, Kuabara is able to deduce that the fighters of Dr. Ichigaki team are being brainwashed and don't deserve to be killed, whereas Yusuke is ready to blow them away. As a Lancer is bound to do, during the semi-finals, Kuabara assumes the role of team leader in Yusuke's absence. In Chapter Black, Team Urameshi gets stuck in an inescapable dimension. Lucky for them, Kuabara has access to a dimension-splitting spirit sword that can get them out. However, he can't seem to get it up. Performance anxiety happens to the best of us. When he sees Yusuke about to be killed by Sensui, the walls blocking his emotions and thereby access to the sword come crashing down. By the time they're able to finally escape, it's too late and Yusuke is killed. To avenge his fallen comrade in the face of certain death, Kuabara splits the barrier between Demon World and Human World, ready to put it all on the line to pursue Sensui. An icon of positive masculinity, Kuabara is everything a Lancer should be to a five-man band. Loyal, honorable, kind, and willing to call out his teammates when they're in the wrong. He may be the weakest member in terms of raw power, but his staunch devotion to the group is the spirit glue that holds them all together.
Earth the toddler bitch! You better speak now before I forever put that pacifier 10 inches down your throat!
15 years before the start of the story, the legendary bandit and fox demon known as Yoko Kurama was critically injured while trying to evade capture. He fled to the human world where he went into hiding by possessing the soul of a random woman's unborn baby. After the baby is born with his previous life's memories intact, Kurama, now known as Suichi, is raised as a human by this woman and now considers her to be his mother. When she becomes terminally ill, Kurama teams up with Hiei and another demon whose name I can't be bothered to remember in an effort to find the forlorn hope to save her life, putting him onto a collision course with spirit detective Yusuke Urameshi. Naturally, being hundreds of years old, the fox demon is the brains or smart guy of Team Urameshi and is easily its most calculating member, so much so that it both annoys and scares Hiei. Kurama will assess an enemy or obstacle first before going in guns blazing like some other members of the team would, having to constantly remind them to think before they act. He comes off as kind and soft, but it's just a ruse to get his opponents to lower their guard. Underneath it all, he can actually be quite cold and ruthless. He is a former A-rank demon after all. Being the team strategist, Kurama usually comes up with the plans on how to deal with whatever obstacles may be in their way. For example, after the second round of the Dark Tournament, the Crooked Tournament Committee immediately makes Team Urameshi fight again in the third round without any rest. On top of that, they disqualify Hiei and the Masked Fighter, making the only eligible fighters Yusuke, Kurama, and a badly injured Kuabara. Kurama comes up with the plan to take down at least 3 members of Team Masho and leave the rest to Yusuke. During his fight with Toya, he comes up with a plan to put the Death Plant Seed into his own body and use it as a weapon against the Ice Ninja. Although his plan works, Kurama ends up falling unconscious, knowing he could be killed by the next fighter, and almost is if not for Yusuke. In Chapter Black, going against the Psychic Kaito in his territory known as Taboo, Hiei, Kuabara, and Botan all have their souls taken after saying certain syllables. Kurama, being the last man standing, deduces a plan to get Kaito to laugh and ends up taking his own soul. Later on, while in the psychic territory of the Game Master, Kurama knows the only way to get past this child and on to Sensui is to literally beat him at his own game. However, doing so will result in the Game Master's death, and Kurama proceeds mercilessly as the fate of the world is on the line. Obviously disturbed, Kurama states he doesn't feel any regret and moves on. His analytical nature tends to get him in trouble when fighting, and he ends up being frequently injured due to trying to figure his opponents out as opposed to killing them swiftly like Hiei would. During the fight with Urameshi, Kurama tries to figure out the secrets to the Idon box and gets tricked by his opponent and ends up paying the price for it. He does unlock Yoko Kurama in the process, but had he just killed Urameshi from the top, he never would have gotten hurt. His hundreds of years of life experience made him intelligent and cunning, but his kindness and willingness to help others is what made him feel the most human. That humanity, that level of sensitivity, is something brought to the table desperately needed by Team Urameshi.
Hiei, I can't accept this. I value our friendship and all we've been through. But I'm not interested in you that way.
Although small in stature, Hiei is the certified badass or big guy of Team Urameshi. Starting out as a foe of the Spirit Detective, Hiei would eventually grow to respect Yusuke through his fighting prowess and leadership. Much like Yusuke, Hiei is headstrong and quick to fight, but unlike Yusuke, Hiei is a lot less likely to show his enemies any mercy. While he enjoys a challenge, if he can deal a killing blow, he will. Being extremely fast, he'll usually go for the kill immediately as opposed to analyzing his opponents as Kurama would. In Mei's castle, in his battle versus Siryu, Hiei slices and dices him up expeditiously, killing him more swiftly than any of the other members of Team Urameshi could take out their respective opponents. He'll often take on the more skilled members of whatever group they happen to be fighting, like Zero of Team Rikuyakai. Hiei unleashes the Dragon of the Darkness Flame relatively quickly into the fight, one-shotting Zero but handicapping himself in the process for the rest of the tournament. It isn't until the final round of the tournament against Team Togoro's Bui that Hiei is once again able to summon the dragon, but Bui is such a badass in his own right that he redirects it back at Hiei. Rather than letting it consume and kill him, he absorbs the power of the dragon and uses it to take down Bui. Astonishingly, he doesn't kill Bui, most likely because he sees a lot of himself in Bui. Although absent for most of Chapter Black, he returns to kill the psychic sniper, saving Yusuke's life. This indicates that he's not hesitant to kill humans, something that Team Urameshi has struggled with throughout the arc. Even though Kurama kills Game Master because the world was on the line, Hiei probably would have killed Sniper regardless, especially if it meant protecting Yusuke, because that's just how he expresses himself. When Yusuke and Kuabara track down Hiei's long-lost sister Yukina at Tarukane's compound, Hiei nearly beats Tarukane to death for torturing her, only to be stopped by Yukina after she begs him to. He puts on a facade of being apathetic and brutal, but deep down, he cares for and respects his sister and teammates, even though he has a contentious relationship with Kuabara and initially looks down on him for being weak. That same respect for Kuabara is still there. Sometimes. Quickly rising to the top of Makuro's elite enforcers during the Three Kings arc, Hiei and Makuro become sort of kindred spirits through a shared childhood trauma of abandonment. They both are the way they are because they had to be strong and brutal to survive. But underneath it all, I think they're both just looking for acceptance despite their perceived flaws, and they find it in each other. Hiei ends up teaching her that embracing found family is possible because he'd already done it with Team Urameshi.
I can never tell what's worse, your aim or your pride in it.
Give me a break! That was the perfectest shot there is! Why don't you show this young whippersnapper how it was done in the olden days?
Gladly, you patronizing jackass.
Now, when the overly sarcastic Productions video on 5-man band slated Botan as the emotional center or heart of the group, at first I agreed, and there's definitely an argument to be made there. She's been there since the beginning, teaching Yusuke about the ins and outs of Spirit World. She gives him his various gadgets and trinkets early on. She protects Keiko when the boys aren't around. Before meeting Yukina, Kuabara is all over her. She's the unofficial trainer during the Dark Tournament, but I feel like she's more there in a support role for the team as opposed to being directly involved in the various conflicts within the show. And with this being a shonen, direct conflict is a pretty quintessential component of the genre. With that being said, I feel like the fifth and final heart spot should go to Genkai. After Yusuke and Kuabara manage to defeat the technique-stealing demon Rando, Genkai trains Yusuke to get stronger both physically and spiritually. She's about the only person who can stand up to Yusuke's antics and attitude, making her the perfect master for him. While being electrocuted by the demon Suzaku, Yusuke remembers the speech Genkai gave him about commitment to protecting his loved ones and finds the strength to break free from the demon. Not even realizing it, Yusuke gained emotional maturity from his time with Genkai, but we don't see the conclusion of that until later. Being forced to participate in the Dark Tournament, Yusuke returns to Genkai for more intense training, putting his body and mind to the test. This time, the emotional maturity she ingrained in him is evident because Yusuke understands what's at stake. After being invited to join Team Urameshi by the tournament committee, unbeknownst to the rest of the group, Genkai enters under the pseudonym The Masked Fighter in order to have a final confrontation with her ex-lover and partner, Toguro. Using the power of her Spirit Wave orb, she is able to stay relatively agile and change her appearance to look like her younger self, putting her identity into question. After revealing herself to Yusuke, she tells him that she'd been waiting for a worthy successor to pass her Spirit Wave orb onto. After its raw power starts to kill Yusuke, she tries to take it back, not wanting to destroy her apprentice. She only stops after Yusuke forces her to put it back to complete his training. Successfully integrating her power, Yusuke falls unconscious, leading Genkai to head to the stadium and help Team Urameshi defeat the final two members of Team Uratogi in the semifinals. After the match, Genkai and Toguro agree to have one final encounter. Following a few words to Kuabara and Keiko, she heads off to meet Toguro and is dealt a fatal blow. Just before dying, she reveals the truth about herself and Toguro's past to Yusuke, adding a new layer to his dynamic and rivalry with Toguro. Aside from Yusuke dying in the first 30 seconds of the first episode, this marks the first major character death in the show. Not only can the characters feel it, save for Kuabara and Keiko, but the audience can as well. Everyone is just gutted by this loss. During the final match of the tournament, when Kuabara is seemingly killed, Genkai's words to Yusuke about not holding back and committing resonate, causing the walls holding his emotions back to come crashing down, allowing him to tap into a whole new level of power and finally finish Toguro off. The prize for winning the tournament is to have any wish granted. Team Urameshi wishes for Genkai to be brought back, but with the tournament committee all dead, it seems like an impossibility. But then, Koenma pulls some strings and allows her to be returned from the dead, and the team is overjoyed to see her again. Now, narratively speaking, I wish they would have let her stay dead because bringing her back retroactively undercuts the gravity of her death. However, doing so solidified her role as the heart of the team for me because we're able to see how the team reacts to both her deflating death and enthusiastic resurrection. With the conclusion of the Dark Tournament, arguably the peak of the series, from this point on in the story, she takes on more of a mentor role to the core four while they deal with the threat of Sensui and inevitably the Three Kings. With a wisdom that surpasses even that of Kurama, Genkai is the definitive den mother to our band of misfits. When I say that Team Urameshi is the perfect 5-man band, I don't mean as individuals. When isolated, they have weaknesses that have been and can be exploited, but when together, when they have each other's backs, when they can make up for any shortcomings that the others may have, be it in terms of power, emotions, brains, or even heights, they are unstoppable. They are champions. They are perfect.
Yo, what is going on, you guys? If you made it this far, thank you so much for checking out the video. If you liked what you see and you want to see more, if you want to help support the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, turn on the notification bell, all the YouTube algorithm things. I don't know if y'all have been keeping up with what's going on with Totally Not Mark, but he's having some copyright issues with Toei. I'll put his channel link in the description below if you want to catch up with that. But he's one of the creators who inspired me to be a content creator, and it's a shame what's happening to him. So I'll put his like I said, the link to his channel down below and his Patreon as well. Because if it could happen to him, honestly, it could happen to any of us. Yeah, but again, I appreciate y'all watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. Y'all be easy.